Having some really awkward conversation to start
We
the show.
also
like
all
normal.
three have
Cooper
glasses
Cup,
on.
two-time Super Bowl champ. Let's go.
Welcome back, Mighty Vandals, to Tubbs at the Club, the Idaho Vandals affiliate on the Big Sky Podcast Network. I am your host, Dallas Hammer, back from my Nickelback tour, joined today by brave, bold Brian Marceau.
Dallas, great to have you back. At some point, we need to have really a retrospective on the numerous and like still counting Nickelback shows you go to. So we're winners whenever the hell that happens.
We will make that an only Tubbs exclusive episode.
Yeah, dude. But anyway, dude, good to be here. Got big news across, on both sides for basketball and football. Like there's always stuff going on. But this week, like there's actual stuff going on too. So glad to have you here for that.
Yeah, a bit of a packed show for Idaho football being, right in the middle of the dead season. So we'll get to that a little bit later on. But last but not least, the main man himself, the brick wall producer redacted, Marten Heemstra. Martin, how's it going, man?
Going good. I'm really happy after Sunday's Super Bowl game. And we're going to talk about later. Another fun week for Idaho women's basketball, and it's a good time. Good time in the Martin Casa.
Yeah, congrats on that Seahawks victory, Martin, and the multitude of Seahawks fans listening. It's the second time in my life I've ever rooted for the Seahawks, and I hope that there's not going to be a third. But Cooper Kupp got another ring, and that can make almost everyone happy. Guys, we're just going to jump right to it. Around the Bar, brought to us by Hughes River Expeditions. It is King Spud, Part 2, Round 2, Number 2, whatever the hell you want to call it. Just don't call it a shit. It's the King Spud weekend. We're going to start things off with women's basketball because, guys, if you're not paying attention to this women's team, this is shaping up to be a very, very special season in Moscow. Martin, take it away.
technical difficulties here, but just kind of a thing to kind of talk about now. They are number 22 in the mid-major. First, I'll start off before I go start doing recaps of last weekend stuff. They are number 22 in the mid-major poll. Just kind of going off of that, I think it's the first time they've been ranked in something like this poll I think ever. So they are doing really good. I kind of recap what happened on Thursday. Last Thursday, they beat Montana State, and I'm going to say the game of the season for the Big Sky, and it's only I think just over halfway through the season. Uh, they won 73-70 in overtime. I believe they were ahead by I want to say 7 or 8 midway through the second quarter, I believe, and let Montana State come back. But hey, they still pulled it out. It was probably a battle of the two top teams in the conference, and they showed why they are top two teams in the conference. Uh, yeah, it was just a good game and overall, and Idaho played how they needed to.
Yeah, so want to add a couple things. First, it's the collegeinsider.com mid-major top 25 that Martin is alluding to. Idaho women sit at number 22, first time they've been ranked the entire year. Second thing I want to bring up is heading into the Montana State game. Now, that was a battle for first place in the Big Sky Conference, and Idaho picks up the W. That means your Vandals sit at 10-1 in Big Sky play. Sole possession of first place, have a half game lead over the Montana State Bobcats, but Idaho's played one fewer league game than the Bobcats because Idaho men and women play the final Big Sky games of the season on Monday, March 2nd at Eastern. So Idaho's just going to be one game behind everyone in conference other than Eastern until then, as far as games played. But so Vandals sit alone at first place in conference, but second. The women's team, and hey, members of the athletic department too that are involved in marketing, they really pounded the pavement in Moscow to try to drum up support locally in things like sororities, other parts of the Moscow community, and it worked. I don't know if you guys saw I had to watch on TV that Thursday, but the official attendance for the Montana State Idaho game was over 1,700 people there, which looked like runaway best attendance of the season. Also on Saturday against Montana, numbers cited was 1,588 present. So really good attendance weekend for the Vandals, especially on Thursday on the stream. The gym looked pretty damn packed. So just want to acknowledge those two things. We've talked before about people getting in to watch this team because they're good and fun. The women's team and the marketing arm of the athletics department did their part, and it worked. Fingers crossed that can continue. Picking up a win over Montana State is a huge deal. One, it probably ended Montana State's chance at an at-large bid if the Bobcats do not win the Big Sky Conference tournament. So that's not too devastating. And second, your Vandals now sit at number 110 in NCAA net rating. That's still number 2 in conference. The Montana State Bobcats sit at 68. But there's no way around it, man. This was a huge win for Idaho. Considering the Vandals lost game 1 in Bozeman by 33 points, that's a 36-point turnaround, man. That's a huge deal. And the fact that Idaho was able to pick this win up in OT, because the Vandals they led for much of the first half, lost the lead, then reclaimed it, which I know when I was watching the game, when I saw that the lead turned towards Montana State side, I started to have, because I've watched a different team, I started to have the feeling like, oh God, the pants shitting is going to come. That's not what this women's team does. They played real well wire to wire against Montana State. And like Martin said, obviously the game of the year in the conference. Martin, you have a black screen of death. Are you still here?
Yes, I am here. It is just the computer is censoring my I am shirtless. I have a shirt on, I should say. Sorry guys. No, want to get your hopes up there, but it, like you said, Brian, it was game of the season. They didn't let anything go to their head. I just kind of, for the Montana State game, to kind of talk about that a little bit more, and then we'll shift to the other game here. They kept Tagley Cherrick to the game, who's I believe Montana State's best player, to only 15 points. She's probably best player in the Big Sky this year so far.
Yeah, she's averaging 19 in conference play. Number 2 scorer in the conference.
Yeah, they kept her in check. their post player Addison Harris. They kept her. They didn't really let her do too much. Kind of had some plays in there at the end, but kept her in check a little bit too. They they kept they didn't let the moment get too big for them. It was kind of like, and Brian was kind of being like he was a little nervous. I was very much not worried at all. Like I was keeping. I had if I don't have a camera on my side of things, but I had a smile on my face the entire game. It was I never lost out with them. They they are they showed they can win the tournament. They showed they can come back and do it, and they dare I say have to make a random trip in March this year if things go out well.
Yeah, Kira Gardner, leading scorer, 18 points, picked up 7 boards as well. Off the bench, Deborah Dos Santos, 14 points in 30 minutes. Dos Santos being on the floor for 30 minutes. That has to be the most minutes she's played all year. Also picked up.
It is Brian. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
She also picked up 17 rebounds. Ana Beatriz Pasos Alves also added 14 off the bench. So 2 different bench scorers putting up 14 points. Those 2 going a combined 10 of 20 off the bench, which I bring that as a reference point. The Vandals as a team shot 35%. So getting 28 points on 50% shooting off the bench. That was instrumental in picking up this W.
Oh yeah. Like they had 2 of their good best players get fouls on early. I think Anna P had a foul in the fourth, or said like they've both fouled out either late in the fourth quarter or early overtime. Like Brian said, these Anna Villa and Deb were both played crucial. They showed why they played their best game so far as Vandals.
Anna did foul out in overtime. That's correct.
Moving on to Saturday's game now against Brian, you got anything else you want to talk about the Montana State game at all, or?
No, dude. No, it was. Anyway, this women's team is real. They're fun as hell to watch. It's pretty wild how, again, that's a 36-point turnaround. Holding Taylor Cherrick she shot 3 of 14 on the game. The starting guards for Montana State combined to go 6 of 25. I mean, honestly, and if you throw in Jamison Phillip, 3 of the 5 starters for the Bobcats combined to go 9 for 38. That's a real strong defensive effort, in spite of this being a high-scoring game as well.
Mm-hmm. And then now, speaking of defensive effort in the Montana State game, I still think maybe this is me, but the Idaho beat Montana on Saturday, 89-65. Couple things to know for Montana. Matt Koenig for Montana, she had 28 points. She came back from an injury fairly recently. She's still working up, but it's still showing why she's Montana's best player. Montana's best player still coming back. They still beat them by 24 points. This was more like another kind of same thing. A couple. It was kind of more spread out for Idaho this time around. Hope Hassman led the way with 19 points. She is 2 points away from 1,000 career points. She's at 998, and I believe I can't remember the exact stuff, but I want to say she's 4 or 5 away from 300 career assists as well. It just was another good game. 16 rebounds, 16 points, 6 rebounds for Deb. One thing to note for this one as well, Idaho did not allow Montana to get a single offensive rebound in this Montana game tonight against Montana, and I don't know who does the defense for Montana. I've been told who does defense for Idaho. I'm sorry, I can't remember who it is, but whoever does most of the defense for Idaho has done a stellar job with them this year so far.
Yeah, the Vandals held the Grizz offensively to essentially no production outside of Mac Koenig. Yeah, she went 8 of 13 for her 28 points. The rest of the Grizz combined to go 12 for 44. So legitimately, it was one player who was able to do anything for Montana, and Idaho, just like the NAU game, the Vandals could have won this game by 40 if they'd really, put their foot down on the gas pedal in the second half. Dos Santos, 16 points in 17 minutes. When she gets the ball, near the circle, she is close to unstoppable. And it was also nice to see Hope Hassman and Kira Gardner both having solid games simultaneously. They have at times traded off where one will be more productive and one will have a little bit of an off game. I mean, those are the top two scorers. They both contribute in more ways just than points. But when those two are showing up simultaneously, essentially it's Montana State who's going to have a shot against Idaho and no one else. In total, the Vandals had they had 6 players in double figures. So yeah, very, very spread out production en route to a 24-point W. Again, more than 1,500 people showed up for this game. So if you're in Moscow and you can make it, there's still one more. The women are at home in 2 weeks, so they have a final homestand. Well, actually, another final home game will be the last game of the season, but this is the last series at home will be in a couple weeks. So
play Portland State on the 19th, Sac State on the 21st, Northern Colorado on the 28th, and then Eastern on Monday the 2nd.
Yeah. Do you want to give a special shout out to Sarah Brands, who took a picture with my daughter twice and remembered her. So Sarah, you are officially the favorite player in our household.
I do want to hit a comment in the comment section real quick. Brad Smith saying the Montana game appears closer than it was because of the threes. I thought that was a pretty big outlier. Montana hit 12 of 33. Idaho went 3 for 16. Rough night for the Vandals from behind the arc, but again,
and still beat them by 24 points.
Yeah, you can let the 3 ball go for a night if you're going to play the way they did. Again, out rebounding them, 21 to 47, I think was the exact total there. Like absolutely insane. Great performance by the women.
Ryan, you got anything last second stuff?
No, other than to say like, hey, this week is King Spud week. And if you guys don't remember the rules for taking home King Spud, and I bring this up because this has been a very, very rough year for Vandals and not keeping trophies or not bringing trophies home. We got to get this one, guys. We absolutely have to get King Spud. So the winner of the combined men's women's series takes home the trophy. Right now, we're tied. The women won their first game against Idaho State. The men dropped their game in Pocatello. If it finishes at 2-2, then we go to a scoring, whoever has the scoring margin lead. And at this moment, with the results being even, Idaho has a 5-point lead in the scoring margin. The women won their game against Idaho State by 13 points. The men lost their game by 8. That's where that scoring margin difference comes. Idaho State, that's the second game of the series. Weber State sucks in women. So the Idaho women should win by 1,000. Idaho State is a good team. The Bengals sit at 9-3 in conference. That is third place. The Idaho State also is the only other conference team to have a W over Montana State. Idaho State also historically really gets up for playing Idaho. So huge matchup in Pocatello. Also, if Idaho can sweep this, that's kind of the last big obstacle for the Vandal women this season. Look, I know there's other teams that play, but like getting over a season sweep over Idaho State would officially put Idaho at the point of like, okay, if the Vandals now kind of have to face plant to not win the conference. So Martin, any thoughts you have heading into the games this week?
I think the only thing I really want to add is just the Saturday game. I will just say Seton Sobolewski coach teams are not to be like tossed away. He is a very good Big Sky women's basketball coach. His coaching staff does have a lot of Big Sky staff. Their former, I forget his name, Chelsea Kennedy or something like that. One of the former Portland State head coaches now is an assistant, I want to say associate or assistant head coach on the staff at Idaho State. So there is a lot of Big Sky stuff, Big Sky knowledge on that team right now. And I would not take them lightly. This will not be like Brian said, Idaho State gets up for this game. It is not a walkover, but I do think Idaho should be able to pull it out if they play how they're capable of. They should be able to play. They should not be a problem for Idaho.
What is that I hear? Is it It's the sounds of a great all-inclusive week-long vacation right in your backyard. Hughes River Expeditions has been Vandal-owned and operated since 1976, and they're ready to take you on the vacation of a lifetime. Enjoy a multi-day trip down the middle fork of the Salmon, the main Salmon River of no return, the Salmon River Canyons, or the Selway. You can check out special trips like one to see the Perseid meteor shower. Camp on pristine beaches, run amazing whitewater, hike scenic trails, spot wildlife, soak in beautiful natural hot springs. And guys, like I say every week, fish the most remote stretches of river in the entire country. Just bring your clothes. HRE will handle the rest. Grab a paddle, catch dinner, and ride the bull all throughout the Gem City. Call them now at 406-540-4450 or check them out at hughesriver.com. See, I thought I was going to be able to fit that ad read in and then still get the goodbye to Marten in, but Marten has already jumped, unfortunately. His Nickelback show started just a couple seconds ago, so he had to take a bounce. Brian, it is up to the two of us to get through men's basketball and football updates. I will pass the wheel back to you, Idaho men's basketball.
Rough week on the men's side. The Vandals drop 2 on the road at Montana State and at Montana. Game 1, Vandals go down 73-66 in Bozeman in a game that Idaho made it close at the end, but like, make no mistake, like Idaho was getting their ass kicked for a good portion of this game. The Vandals were not able to get much going offensively for quite some time. Leading scorer Colton Mitchell goes for 21 points on 9 of 18 from the field. No other Vandal scored more than 11 points. Biko Johnson put up 11 with going 3 of 22, which means that heading into the Montana game, Biko's 3-game stretch included, dating back to the Northern Colorado series, included going 4 of his last 32 from the field over 3 games. And the Vandals, look, we've talked about this a little bit more in the patreon.com hashtag only Tubs Discord. By the way, support the show at patreon.com/Tubs the Club. Costs less than a cup of coffee a month to be part of the best online place to chat Vandal sports, bar none. Idaho men are just not a good 3-shooting team. And like, it irritates the hell out of me listening to broadcasts because announcers keep saying Idaho is a dangerous 3-shooting team. They are not, guys. They can at times they can at times hit a few in a row, but the Vandals they absolutely, as a team, this is not a very good 3-shooting team. The good news is the Vandals are shooting a few fewer threes, but they're just not very dangerous from deep. Again, like the Vandals go 4 of 29. That is, I mean, it's below what they're averaging on the season, but like, hey, you look at the conference season from 3-point percentage, Vandals are last in the league at 32.6%. And it's not for lack of volume because the Vandals have taken the second most threes in conference. I'm not an old school guy who bitches about the fact of shooting threes. I'm just saying we have to talk about this team because announcers don't figure it out. This is not a dangerous 3-point shooting team. It's a team that can be opportunistic, but on the road, seeing them go 4 for 29, not exactly a shock. But both of these games kind of matched what the DNA of this Vandal team has been. In that Idaho, it's not always the first half, but it's not always the second half. But this team can look great one half and then shit the bed the next. And sometimes it's preemptive bed shitting like it was against Montana State. Against Montana, it was the other end where the Vandals led for a good portion of that game, but then allowed the Grizz to go on a 19-0 run in the second half. Idaho made it competitive again at the end, but fell 73-68. Biko Johnson had his best game in quite some time, going 8 of 14 for 22 points. Good to see him putting that together. Because like I said, he had a 3-game stretch going 4 for 32, which is incredible. Again, Johnson can be a very good player. It was shocking to see him have that run, but 3 games, that's a really long time to be shooting like that. In addition, Colton Mitchell, now this is another subplot of the season. Just like the women's team, at times has had difficulty getting Kira Gardner and Hope Hassman on the same page production-wise. Idaho men have had a damn difficult time getting Biko Johnson and Colton Mitchell to both show up. This time, it was Colton Mitchell had a rough game going 1 for 9. And I mean, just full disclosure, Idaho is not good enough to afford to have Biko or Colton have a 1 for 10, 1 for 9, 1 for 12 type of night and expect the Vandals pick up a W. Jack Payne, the number 2 scorer for the Vandals, picking up 12 points, going 4 for 9 from the field, 3 of 8 from behind the arc this game. The Vandals shot 11 of 34 from 3, which is right on par with their season average. Montana plays a more physical brand of basketball, but I just got to say, like, Idaho can't rely. This is a team that should never be shooting 34 threes. They've got to be putting more pressure on defense. And Montana wants a team like Idaho to settle for those shots instead of getting the ball inside, whether it's in the post or through penetration. And Idaho clearly obliged for this game.
Brian, I mean, that's the story of the season, right? In conference, Idaho is 3rd in threes made, 2nd in threes attempted, and 10th in 3-point percentage.
Yeah, which is why I've said on the show 1,000 times, we know they're going to shoot threes, guys. It's 2026. This is just how basketball is, but Idaho needs to be opportunistic. They need to put pressure on the defense first and then take good open threes. If the Vandals are shooting 34 threes, that tells you that team is settling way too much. Now, you're hearing a disappointed tone because it really does seem to me that this road trip was essentially the nail in the coffin of, if you were like me and you saw during part of the season, when Idaho gets it together, this is a talented team that can beat anyone in this conference. But they're a 500 team for a reason. 500 teams look great 1 minute, look terrible 1 minute. They look great 1 half, they shit the bed 1 half. Idaho right now, until further notice, is to the bone a 500-ish basketball team. On the season, the Vandals still sit at 5th in conference at 5-6. There are 4, if you want to stretch, 5 teams battling it out for seeds 4 and 5 in the conference, with Weber State right now has a narrow lead on the 4 spot at 6-6 in conference. Idaho is tied with Eastern at 5-6. The Eagles swept the Montana schools on the road. Pretty wild for a team that's 7-17 on the year. SAC with a silent K State sits at 5-6 as well, and then Northern Colorado sits at 5-7. So those 4 are really who's going to shake out the 4 or 5 spot. I think it's just over the top 3 teams that are in the conference. Portland State's probably going to be the number 1 seed for sure. They sit at 10-1, and then Montana State and Montana will battle it out for 2 and 3. Both of them sit at 8-4 in league play. This week for Idaho, 2 big games, because now, I mean, again, if you're battling it out with 4 teams to finish in that 4 or 5, any home game you have to call pretty much a must win. And Weber State is going to feel the same way heading into this week's game in Moscow. Weber State's a Thursday game. Idaho State's the Saturday game. Weber State is a high scoring team, man. They are right now, the Wildcats are the number 2 scoring team in conference. They put up 80.6 points a game on the season. And they're led by Tajon Sane Jr., the number 1 scorer in conference play, averaging 21 points per game. The good news for Idaho is that Weber State is really shitty defensively. Number 2 scoring offense, second to last scoring defense. So Idaho's they've got to keep Sane at a, let's say, sane level of production. Dallas, I was thinking of you there. And then look, the Vandals have just had up and down production from pretty much every player who's a major contributor. Guy like a true freshman like Jackson Rasmussen, hey, 100% anticipated, right? Where true freshman is going to have ups and downs. He's going to have times where we've had times where it seems like opposing defenses have figured him out. Then we had a run where Jackson Rasmussen had figured it out. The last few games, he's been getting into the paint. He's just not finishing. And I just think some of that is, if he's still in Moscow as a true sophomore to junior, a few more of those shots are going in. It completely changes the dynamic of the season. But the Vandals just cannot have Colton Mitchell and Biko Johnson have one of them completely no show. That's just who Idaho is. No matter how much you want this team to, and this is not me necessarily, no matter how much you want Idaho to get it to someone down low, Idaho doesn't have a guy you can just throw it into who's going to put up 16 points from post production. By the way, virtually no Big Sky team has that, and if you do, they're gone immediately in the next season. Just so you're talking about Big Sky sports, just have to accept, hey, if you're an old school and you like back to the basket play, this is not the conference for you, man. So like, just get over it. Rasmussen can be productive in the post, but he's a little bit better putting the ball on the floor to get his points inside. But of course, he can post up too. The next game, the King Spud game, which look, the Vandals, man, they have to win. They absolutely have to beat Idaho State. The Idaho State Bengals on the men's side are absolutely reeling this year. The Bengals sit at 3-9 in conference play, with the last W for Idaho State came against Idaho. Your Bengals are sitting at 7 consecutive losses right now. Most recently getting swept by Northern Colorado and somehow by Northern Arizona. Northern Arizona looks like a terrible team to me, guys. Just full disclosure. But look, Idaho did find a way to lose in Pocatello to Idaho State. The Vandals have been stronger at home, like many 500 teams, right? Strong at home, not so strong on the road. Idaho, to me, brain dead, has more talent than Idaho State basketball. And Idaho, brain dead, plays a much more fun style of play. But just as we've talked about ad nauseum, man, your 500 teams, it's kind of a roller coaster type of ride. I will say a secondary story to follow for the Vandals, in addition to the fact that the Vandals just have to take home a trophy. They just have to. Idaho sits at 13-11 right now. Finishing over 500 is on the table for the first time in like 8 years. And I think that is incredibly important. Before we even start to talk about the postseason tournament, Idaho's got to finish above 500 at some point. Picking up 2 wins here would be a huge deal in Idaho. Picking up more of a difference in win totals between last season and this season. I believe what Idaho picked up was at 14 or 15 wins in 2024-25. Our stat
14.
team. Okay. Idaho picked up 14 wins last season. We know this team should finish with more than 14, but you got, look, Idaho, it can't be 15 or 16 that the Vandals finish with. I think it's important for this Vandals team to push towards 17, 18 as their win total. What I see from having watched Idaho these few seasons, the Vandals do look like they're slightly under Alex Pribble. This year 3, they do they're slightly better each year with Pribble, and this team is objectively more talented than the first 2. But I don't know, man. Like I just feel like being more talented, but picking up like maybe 2 more wins is just, Pribble would probably call that a disappointment if he were on the show. I'm not trying to put words in his mouth. That's just my gut, my reaction to this team. Not having Christian Gonzalez probably attributes to maybe 3 extra losses, but every team deals with injuries. So look, I will be in Moscow for sure Thursday. I'm going to see Saturday. I work a night shift Saturday, so depends if I can make that work. I'm not 100% clear on it, but the main thing I'm concerned with in this game is Idaho State does rebound relatively well. They're a disciplined team. They're a physical team, but they're certainly not that talented from the perimeter. Big deal is Robry and Joba, the centers for Idaho. Those dudes need to not get in foul trouble because we'll need their size. We need 2 out of these 3 guys need to show up, of Biko, Colton, or Jackson Rasmussen. We need good production out of at least 2 of those guys. And talking about Idaho bench has been a little bit odd this year. It's really Isaiah Brickner, who is very hot cold. When he's hot, he looks like he could be a starter. When he's cold, you see judgment issues and bad shots, and you understand why the guy is off the bench. But Brickner has had some great games for the Vandals this year. He is probably one of the more talented bench scorers in the entire conference when things are clicking. But you've heard that asterisk when something's happening for this men team across quite a few things. So we need 2 of those 3 guys to show up. Any bench production is a bonus, and Idaho just can't settle for threes. They're going to shoot threes. They need to be good threes. They need to be open threes off of dribble penetration or post kickouts. That's where this team, in transition too, because you can get some wide open looks there. But essentially my view on Idaho is 3 ball needs to be wide open, good looks. Otherwise, put pressure on the defense, get other teams in foul trouble. Yes, Idaho sucks at free throws, but whatever. Getting the other team in foul trouble is a net positive in and of itself.
Yeah. Brian, I wanted to bring up the 3-pointer. Again, I know that it's the easy button to talk about with this team right now, but they went 4 for 26 in Pocatello, 2 for 16 in the second half, and shot themselves completely out of what was absolutely a winnable game. What they were up 5 with 7 minutes left, I think.
And then they completely let their foot off the gas and started taking shitty threes.
Yeah, and again ended 4 for 26, 2 for 16 in the first half. So really hope you don't see that. Really hope Jamison Guerra, the littlest guy on the Idaho State team, hopefully he doesn't burn the Vandals once again like he did at the end of that second half. But we'll see, Brian. 7 games left, folks, for the men's basketball team. Again, Thursday versus Weber State, Saturday versus Idaho State, then back on the road. Then coming back the final weekend of February, the 26th and 28th, Northern Arizona and Northern Colorado for Senior Day.
Do some of those games on the road to finish above, to try to get, let's say, to 17, 18 wins, they actually do look kind of tough from here out. Portland State's top in conference at home. Sacramento State has 1 home loss on the season, and the last 10 games, they have really figured it out. So a game that maybe we penciled in as a W early in the year, that's not, Sac State's probably going to be favored this Saturday. Then the homestand, NAU sucks. Idaho has to pick up that win for sure. But Idaho really struggled against Northern Colorado in Greeley. However, Northern Colorado is atrocious on the road. So I don't know. That game will probably project as a coin flip, narrow Idaho advantage. And then closing on the road with Eastern. But Eastern is far tougher than their 7-17 record would lead you to believe. So getting 2 17-18 wins for this team, kind of tough. They just got to pick up two wins this week. Got to make up for dropping 2 in Montana by picking up 2 in Moscow.
Yeah, it would be obviously huge, especially you're talking about getting that 17-18 wins. Again, you got to win 4 of these 7 to guarantee yourself a winning record for the first time in damn near a decade. So any final thoughts on the round ball teams, Brian, before we transition to the oblong ball?
No, man. Other than, I referenced it earlier, but like the last road trip, to me, that was the nail in the coffin of the ceiling of this team is 4 in conference. And you're probably looking at Idaho. If they could have squeaked into like the 3 spot, picking up a few wins where they obviously did not so far, you would be looking at Idaho as, hey, not favored to win the tournament, but like, would you be shocked if they went on a run and made it to the semis or the conference, the conference championship? Not completely floored, right? Now they look like a team where the ceiling is winning 2 or getting a first round bye and winning 1. Hope they prove me wrong on that. But look, at some point you acknowledge the team is what they are. And this is an up and down team that's about 500. Good news is there's a lot of company with that in conference. Downside is, even in what looks like it's going to be the best Idaho season in almost a decade, it still makes you look at the end results with a but, which it's just tough. Like when the season's over, we'll do our autopsy and we'll know how to feel about the team now. But for much of the season, it did truly feel like there was an extra gear that this team was going to hit. And I think now you'd say, don't bet on that taking place. If it happens, awesome. But in the same way, the women's team, they found their other gear, and they're clicking, man. The men, it's just kind of a toss up each week.
Yeah, still just not sure what you're going to get from the Vandals each week. But 7 games left, there is always a chance. Go on a bit of a run, end the season hot, running into the tournament. Hey, you won the first tournament game in a decade last year. Hey, you never know what could happen. But Starch Madness still a few weeks away, even I would say about a month away, Brian. Moving on to football. As we've discussed on this show before, Idaho is hiring a special teams coordinator. It has not been publicly announced, but the job posting is no longer listed on the website. I personally don't know what the holdup is. I was unable to make any of the signing day events. I was at Nickelback in another state, so I was not able to make a signing day event. I'm not sure if Ford has let the word out beyond that, but Fendall at least acknowledged it was very difficult to coach both the safeties and the special teams. So you guys have all heard this before, but nothing has officially been announced yet. Patreon.com/Tubs at the Club if you want to try to get a little bit of inside information on that one. Brian, we have some big news to talk about, and we're going to bury it by talking about Beavis first, because last week you and Martin mentioned offhand, hey, Bobby Hauck's leaving Montana. Yeah, we'll get to that another time. When I listened to that, I did not necessarily think that next time was going to be the very next show, because Bobby Hauck retires as the Montana head coach. Again, the phrasing in this press release and in the press conference was retires as Montana head coach and retirement as Grizzly head coach. He did that on National Signing Day, February 4th. Well, February 9th, Brian, Bobby Hauck was announced as the new defensive coordinator for the Big Ten Illinois Fighting Illini. And as Captain 58 says in the comment section, quote unquote, retires. Brian, I know how much you love the Grizz, so this is I will jump in first and say I think that's a chicken shit spineless move to come out and say I don't really like coaching college football anymore because it's all NIL and all the hand waving that Bobby Hauck did about coaching is just not the same anymore. And then you go to the Big Ten, which is the most Wild West of Wild West NIL that I could think of. The only thing that could have been worse is going to the SEC, because at least they're pretty open about it. But Crewhead 76 douchebag coordinator Bobby Hauck, spot on, Crewhead, spot on.
I think it's a little more complex, and I say that because I think all people are complex. I feel like that's not exactly secret, but understanding like Bobby Hauck or how to feel about him is like it's not that simple, because on one hand, look, people in Montana, even this year, the word out of Montana is that, look, Hauck finishes number 3 this year in the FCS. Pretty damn good, right? Word is he was going to enter the final year of his contract without a new extension coming. So just bring this up to say the guy who is one of the most successful coaches in the history of the Big Sky Conference, coming off a 3rd place finish, might not have had his contract renewed if the dude didn't win the title heading into the season. That's a weird set of expectations. And also, some of what Hauck described about, coaching changing and the NIL stuff, transfer portal stuff being something he didn't care for. Like, I'm not dismissing anything you just said, Dallas, but Bobby Hauck has coached in Montana for a long time. He ran track at Montana. So I do buy that some of that did matter to him. And I also buy that this announcement came late in the game because Bobby Hauck was protecting his buddies on the coaching staff. And by the way, no, that you're not going to get me putting a guy down for that, because all those guys, if he announces this early, all those guys are having to move and their careers get turned upside down. So on the one hand, I buy part of his rationale, and I actually like that he protected his coaching staff. For all the dickhead stuff that we talk about with Bobby Hauck, he's also sometimes the really hardcore old school dudes are also really loyal. The big deal is you want to be in their in group, because if you're in their out group, they don't give a shit about you at all. But if you're in the in group, they'll take care of you. And you saw Bobby Hauck do this. On the other hand, you are 100% correct in that going to the Big Ten, it's not like his activity with recruiting is going to be lessened now. He's just not going to be under the weird Montana microscope because there's nothing else professional going on in the state of Montana. And he doesn't have to lose to Brent Vegan again. So there is that. And the retirement thing, I will say that was kind of weird. It seemed like the announcement was made, one, so he could do a goodbye, right? And get acknowledged at the basketball game and get a bunch of love online. But everyone did that assuming he was officially riding off into the sunset.
Exactly.
And he obviously knew what he was doing. Well, obviously this contract had been arranged long before the announcement took place, and Hauck was just probably waiting until you get the guy signed so that the coaching staff is there. The players are very likely there. It's too late in the game for a lot of guys to bail. Like, some people will bail, but most of the roster spots have been taken at other schools too. So it's going to be harder for those guys to leave. I know from the Idaho end, it's weird that this is sort of a win for everyone. Because Montana fans, in spite of Hauck being very good, like there are some things that Montana fans were annoyed with. He was not going to get on board with being more engaging with the fan base.
No,
and
he's proud of being a dick.
Yep. And engaging with the fan base is something that you do need to do. Both Montana has the attendance thing down, but to continually get money for NIL and scholarship stuff, like you're going to have to you have to like
shake hands.
Yeah. So Montana doesn't have to fire Hauck at any point. So you don't fracture if you're a Grizz, you don't fracture the fan base. I will say new head coach Bobby Kennedy, a career wide receiver coach who is certainly on his way down the coaching ladder as a wide receiver coach. If this happened in Idaho, I would be absolutely shitting my pants about the upcoming season. However, I would be shitting my pants in part because Idaho has Terry Golick as the AD. And she will essentially fire no one. And she typically takes the path of least resistance no matter what is happening. That's not the case for Montana. I would 100% expect that by October, Montana's AD is going to know if they're going to extend this dude or if they need to open up a national coaching search. And that's actually been what is described as what may happen is Montana's going to name Bobby Kennedy's he is not an interim. He is the head coach for this year, but this is not a long-term deal. If he does well, he may get a long-term deal, but if he's not doing well, he's not going to come back. This will not be a Zach Kloss situation in Montana. And if Bobby Hauck was going to have to finish number 3 to get a contract, Montana's going to have to be good for Bobby Kennedy to get a contract. So I guess that's another way where Montana fans kind of get to win. But then the Big Sky gets to win because if you want to move up in the conference, Montana was an obvious barrier. And having, as much as we bitched about Bobby Hauck, as annoying as he can be at times, he was a very good football coach. And now it's a question mark on what the coaching staff means for Montana. Yes, the position coaches are still there, but are you telling me they're going to 100% respect Bobby Kennedy the way they respected Bobby Hauck? That's a question mark now. Or do the guys coordinators get a little more autonomy? And is that a good thing that they get more autonomy? Good question. I don't know. Is Tim Hauck going to be back as DC? We don't know. So suddenly the second most stable program in the entire Big Sky, there's a lot of question marks. So I'd call that a win for every school in the Big Sky.
Hitting a couple comments real quick. Captain 58 for 1 year, maybe. If Grizz expectations pushed out Hauck, imagine what they'll do to a wide receiver coach. Crewhead 76. If he said stepping down and still wants to coach, I would have more respect for him. I fully understand being loyal to your guys, protecting your guys. You've done this so late in the game that like they can't really adjust that coaching staff. That's just why they promoted Bobby Kennedy up. And I can understand that and respect that, but this is not a decision that you just randomly came to February 3rd that night. Like, you know what? I'm going to retire tomorrow. That's not how that worked. Especially when the press release comes out on the 9th of the 3-3-5 is coming to Illinois, and look at all the great defenses that Bobby Hauck has had in his time at San Diego State and at Montana, and we're real excited to show something to Illinois football that we've never done before. You don't have that prepped if you didn't know this was coming well in advance. I have a problem with sticking it on signing day of all places, and you've locked the kids into contracts. Like it's Bobby Hauck making things about himself. And I know that this worked out in the best way possible for many places. I know, again, Montana was pretty openly not thrilled with him. A very good portion of that fan base was ready for him to move on. Fully understandable. The guy's a total dick, and your in-state rival just became the hottest thing in the FCS, which we'll get to that in a second. I understand completely why you'd want to move on from Bobby Hauck after he's been there for essentially 20 years across 2 different stints. All of that makes sense. But I just come back to, man, you kind of left this program high and dry. They're promoting Bobby Kennedy of all people. I never met the guy. Hopefully he's a great coach. Hopefully he knows what he's doing, but legitimately, he has never been a coordinator before. He was a GA at Illinois and Penn State in the early 90s, and then has been a receivers coach or running backs coach every single stop along the way. Now, again, I've heard people say, "Look, Joel Thomas Ford was just a running backs coach." Yeah, he was also the special teams coordinator, so he interacted with everyone on the team. I'm not saying that Bobby Kennedy was just hanging out with the receivers and flipping the bird to every other position group. But man, this is a pretty big jump for what was the number 3 program. What is, I hate to say it, but one of the greatest FCS programs historically. This is a pretty big fucking jump to drop Bobby Hauck, which again seems honestly like it was pretty mutual from all sides, to go with an unproven receivers coach for 1 year. I mean, crazier things have worked out, sure. And again, none of us know what Bobby Kennedy's plan for the program is, but man, this is a pretty big leap to take when you are the 3rd best team in the FCS, and then the big news that happened just a couple of days after that. Well, tough scenes for Montana right now.
We'll say it's the second time the Grizz have done this in the 21st century, promoted a position coach to head coach. It happened in 2009 when Mick Delaney was promoted. That was back in the John Krakauer book Missoula days, that program was reeling. Delaney went 29-25 as a Grizz head coach. So these two guys are not the same thing, but it's weird to see it happen twice. But my expectation is that if Bobby Kennedy doesn't kick ass this year, you're not going to get a Mick Delaney scenario where he gets a handful of years to make things work. Kennedy's got to do it now or not. And we know, again, like that's one of the weird things. And look, this is going to infect the last story we talk about too. As Vandal fans, it's just weird to see this happen but have in the back of your head, like, oh my God, their next half decade could be screwed. No, it's not. Other schools are serious about their departments. So I expect the Grizz will be roundly trying to push Kennedy out if he is not absolutely kicking ass heading into October. But I guess what I care more about is the Vandal end of, it's nice to have one of the Blue Bloods showing some instability heading into the season. Now we have real question. I know Kealili Ayada said he's going to come back. We don't know if Eli Gilman will come back. We'll see how many guys they lose. I wouldn't expect Hauck's going to take very many people with him to Illinois, if any, because the Grizz were just not that great defensively last year. No. So who the hell that has not already left would be able to go there and play? Probably no one. So they're not hurting that way. But what they may be hurt in is any coach who is good, regardless of dickhead or not, they're going to have players who are loyal to them. And loyalty doesn't have to mean transferring to the school he's at. Loyalty can be, hey, you're not my head coach anymore. Well, I didn't commit to this dude. So, we'll see where if the Grizz roster changes. But again, what I care about, suddenly there's instability. We want Idaho to make a step up, and someone else having to deal with a rough off season. Man, terrible news, right?
Hey, Eli Gilman would look really good in Pride Gold. That's all I'm saying. He'll obviously, if he transfers, he's going well above Montana. But just saying, look pretty good in Pride Gold. But Brian, that buries the biggest news of all. It has finally happened, ladies and gentlemen. If you were watching the Super Bowl, you probably didn't catch this news when it broke because, again, this is the most buried news story of buried news stories. North Dakota State University has left the FCS. They have joined the Mountain West Conference for 2026 as a football-only member. They are spending $12.5 million over the next 6 years to the Mountain West Conference just to join, on top of then the $5 million fee to the NCAA. So $17.5 million for NDSU to leave the FCS and join the Mountain West. They are currently petitioning for playoff access because as part of the move up from the FCS, they are not eligible for the postseason. They are not eligible for conference championships until 2028. They are not eligible to get full conference revenue until 2032. Their current athletic budget is $7.5 million. Excuse me, their current football budget is $7.5 million. That is expected to at least double in the near future because the average Mountain West team in 2023 spent $13.5 million, Brian. So this is a hell of a jump for North Dakota State, and man, talk about striking when the iron is hot, because I cannot imagine that this is the best deal they have had in all of the rounds of realignment we've had in the last 15 years. This cannot be the best deal that they have had. I have no fucking idea what these people are thinking and doing. This cannot have been the best time for you to move to the FBS.
Well, there's never been a reported offer prior, which has always been part of the difficulty for NDSU. We'll say the big loser in the North Dakota State news and move is Sacramento State, it was reported that Sac State has been offering $10 million plus foregoing conference revenue to join a conference. The Mountain West said no and charged NDSU an extra $2.5 million based off that. I'm curious if Sac State openly doing that is actually part of why NDSU paid as much as they did. Like, I don't know the answer, but legitimate question now. The Pac-12 and Mountain West, who are essentially the same thing, both have said no, allegedly, to Sacramento State. It looks like it is the MAC is the only other option for the Hornets, and paying $10 million plus the $5 million. So that'd be 15 to move up for Sac State. Yeah. Anyway, now Sac State looks like goddamn beggars. And I am curious if the MAC is interested in that extra $10 million, but only interested for the scope of this discussion, because since Sac State's no longer in the Big Sky, once we talk football, I don't really give a shit about them. My Idaho takeaway for this is, look, Idaho's not going to be a prime mover in the initial stages of FBS, FCS realignment moving at all. The Mountain West has openly said, hey, they're not adding any more teams for this coming season. The next team
they said that the NDSU was the only team that they were even attempting to bring in.
Yeah. If we're speculating, you'd have to say UC Davis at some point has to be on the table for that, because they're going to be parking all of their non-football sports in the Mountain West from here on. That did ignite discussion in Montana State, and probably South Dakota State circles about moving up, but $17.5 million before you talk about the actual budget, that's a gigantic amount of money. And yes, could you expect to get some of that back at the gate if you move up from excitement? Yeah. But that is a huge, huge hurdle that both the Montana schools would really struggle to be able to hit. And then they have to get more money just for regular operating expenses. So I don't think we're going to have anything change realistically. And then again, the Idaho end, just because we're talking Idaho sports, Terry Golick hasn't even put together a facilities improvement plan. We had a very hot iron to strike with during Jason Eck time. She hasn't been able to put together anything mild like that. I know she's promised in different talks to have a plan together, or concepts of a plan,
supposedly concepts of a plan, Brian
might say. But just if you're seeing North Dakota State move and thinking, hey, what's Idaho's plan? Terry has clearly decided that Idaho is going to be hip to hip with Idaho State and Eastern Washington. So Idaho will not be a mover here. Idaho needs the world to move, and then that will happen to move Idaho, which is not the worst thing in the world. If the asking price right now was $17.5 million, Idaho's not ready to do that. Idaho's not going to get that type of money before you talk about the day-to-day expenses going way, way up if you move up in the conference. But I guess that was, I'd always landed on this spot anyway, Dallas. I just don't think Idaho's going to be one of the people who will change the landscape in any meaningful way. They need the landscape to change, but that $17.5 million number to get things started, no, nail in the coffin, guys. Enjoy where Idaho is. The Big Sky is a very good conference. Enjoy that. Now it's going to feel like the Natty is winnable for teams other than NDSU.
Yeah.
I know that people bitch about teams being watered down, but keep in mind, as teams go out, we have new powers rise. Like Tarleton State has been very good recently. Montana State is at a level that, well, they just won the title. So obviously they were better than North Dakota State this year. So there are still mountains to climb in the FCS Big Sky level for Idaho. So I'm fine sitting back, enjoying where we're at, and saying when things change, things will change. But we just know immediate calculus, that's not going to involve Idaho.
Yeah, a couple comments to hit here. Go for two. NDSU is already selling out, so Merchgate could possibly even go down in FBS if they struggle. That's the thing. You had a tried and true. You knew you were selling out. You knew your gate was phenomenal. I know that they've had more students enrolling and that the school is growing, but that is a a really big ask to go up to the FBS and struggle because, again, we've seen this before. You go up to the FBS, you struggle, and all of a sudden the fan base collapses. And then you move down a level and the fan base collapses again. And then it takes the magic of Jason Eck to bring things back to life. Like, that is a much more realistic possibility than NDSU coming in, immediately winning the Mountain West and moving up to the Pac-12 and being a college football powerhouse. Certainly could do it, but man, I'm pretty happy with where Idaho's at, waiting for the rest of the world to change. Because Brian, you keep mentioning that 17.5 million. I don't think that 17.5 million is an accurate price tag. I think that's the NDSU price tag for bringing in the greatest FCS program of all time. Yeah, Montana and Montana State are probably going to be somewhere in that, but if they're under 20 million to move into the FBS, I'd be shocked. Idaho, you're looking at probably more than 20 million. Like, teams are going to pay different values. That's not just a face value. It's 12.5 million to join the Mountain West. That's just what they offered to NDSU. They will charge more for teams that are less deserving. Like they've said Idaho was back when Idaho was in the FBS. The other thing I wanted to hit was Colberry Ochoa, 17 million to go to the new Big West because everyone left for the new WAC. Idaho needs to wait this one out. Been there. That's, for me, I'm like, cool. This is awesome. I see the chase. Again, I like FBS over FCS. I've always admitted that. I'm also realistic about Idaho football. There's no reason to go back to the FBS and get your shit pushed in, or end up somehow in Conference USA, and once every 10 years you have a winning season. As Brad Smith says, we have a shot to win the FCS championship. We will never do that at the FBS level. I'm tired of worthless bowl games. Like, again, it would have been cool to go to a bowl game that wasn't in Boise, Idaho, but man, when you're talking, that's the current like pinnacle of Idaho football is, hey, maybe we'll win 9 games this year and we'll play in the Humanitarian Bowl. Oh, nope, it's now the famous Potato Bowl.
I mean, the other thing I want to bring up to Dallas is, look, we've hit the money thing, right? Like, everyone knows Idaho, even if acknowledging what you said about it, there's not like one single tag. We all know Idaho doesn't have the money for that, and they're not about to have the money for that, right? Like, we're all clear. Second, there's the competition part, which is North Dakota State has won 1,000 championships. And that is a program that in down years is still like, close to number 1 in the polls for virtually the entire season. That is a different level of running and organization that you can understand that fan base taking the gamble right now with extreme uncertainty. It would be so stupid. I talk about Terry because I say it's stupid. It'd be stupid for Idaho to do that right now. With this level of instability. Well, even if it was smart, Idaho would not be doing it because it would involve extra work for Terry, and she looks like she should have retired like 5 years ago. So that's not going to change. But this is a time where it happens to be good for us because I will say on the other end, Sacramento State is trying to move up aggressively. They have fundraised to be able to move up aggressively, and they're in an objectively worse place for having done that right now than they were 12 months ago. So just because you're ambitious and want to, jump up real quick, that doesn't mean it's actually a good call for the program. So this is an example where our athletic department being complacent with where they're at. Most of the time it is not helpful, but this time it actually might be.
Brian, I want to just to really like put it up for people, because I even had some people mentioning me on Twitter, like, oh, if Chuck Staben wouldn't have put us down, we'd be there. Like, let's pump the fucking brakes here. North Dakota State has had 2 losing seasons in this millennium. One of which was in D2. The other was Craig Bowl in 2008 or 2009, right before they went on the streak that launched, the 10 titles or 15 titles, whatever the hell their number is now. That's not Idaho football. I don't know how to make people understand that. Idaho football is not considered like a premier product. We all love Idaho football, sure, but Idaho football doesn't move the needle for anybody. North Dakota State has been moving needles for damn near 3 decades at this point. And it finally, like you said, Brian, this is the first official offer we've heard of, being $17.5 million to move up. there's a difference to me in saying, yeah, that Idaho school that, let's say they're New Mexico State University. Hey, they win more games than they lose once every decade. Yeah, let's bring them over to the Mountain West. That'll strengthen our brand. That is not how that works. Not how that works at all. The only reason Idaho would be getting an offer by the Mountain West is, hey, we need to have X amount of teams to be able to survive. So come on over. Same exact thing that happened with the Sun Belt. We need 12 teams to be able to host a conference championship game. New Mexico State and Idaho want to be teams 11 and 12. And then as soon as that rule changed, whoosh, right out the door. Same exact thing would be happening here. Idaho, yes, I know there's a bunch of people that wish Idaho was FBS. I was one of them, am one of them. There is not an FBS home for Idaho right now, and that's okay. We need to wait. Again, as Jason Mayer says, the world is going to change. The top 60 are going to turn into a semi-pro conference. The next 100 are going to be mid-majors. That's where Idaho needs to be. That's where Idaho can succeed. And right now, being in a stable conference with Montana and Montana State, it's a pretty damn good place to be, rather than venturing out there alone like Idaho did for a pretty damn good long time. Crewhead 76, our chances to be great fell apart when John L. Smith left as we moved up. No money, no facilities, no fucking plan. I mean, that's the story of Idaho sports right there.
Now, for me, this is just a blip with how we talk about Idaho for a second, right? Because we will resume our regular programming of talking about Idaho, where we are and where we're going to be for the foreseeable future. But look, the Vandals have 3 wins have 3 winning seasons since rejoining the Big Sky back in 2018. Idaho's where they should be. They're currently viewed as a program that could be ascendant, had 3 very good years, we've talked ad nauseum, a rough year that could have been, if you look, a lot of close losses in this last season, a lot of, reason to think last season could have been slightly different. But I'm honestly like, hey, I went to the signing day event in Coeur d'Alene. Got to talk to some of the coaches, in particular, Ian Shoemaker. Once this story ends, I don't really give a shit about the classification talk anymore. I'm all in where Idaho is, and I'm excited about the changes that we get to see at Idaho's level as far as like coaching staff and new guys coming in. That's what I care about. I do think this should just put the discussion to bed for everyone. Even most people I've interacted with are Dallas. They don't share the version that you described of like seeing the NDSU news and being upset about where Idaho is. I mean, obviously those people exist, but like my overwhelming amount of interactions, in particular, like on our Discord, is people who understand Idaho's where they should be. And this is just not going to change. If this hurts your feelings for a day, get over it and get on board for what is going to be a fun season.
Yeah, exactly. Or if it's not a fun season, then we get to talk about what the hell the changes are going to be. Because we've seen the changes that happened after, again, a bad year. But it was just a final note from Crewhead 76. I love my school, but we have never been serious about doing what it takes to be great. And that's the thing. Until the athletic department and honestly the university president as a whole get on board with, hey, athletics is got to be a driver here. Until that happens, like this is Idaho's peak, and that just is what it is.
And I understand Crewhead to be talking at a macro level, as in he's talking administrative. I only bring that up because I think Thomas Ford has made the type of changes that someone who absolutely cares about nothing else but winning. Yes. The type of like staffing changes he's made, like being with how he's been with recruitment, like those are the changes of someone who saw that things need to change, and he changed a shit ton and brought a lot of expertise into the building. But at the entire university level, Crewhead, if that's what you mean, then hey, co-sign that.
Yeah, that's I know we've made jokes about Luke Wood and Sacramento State and how obnoxious they are, but man, I would go to war to have an athletic director that gave half the shit that Luke Wood gives.
I think he's the bizarro Terry Golick. I think like Terry is the do nothing, and I think Luke Wood is be needlessly aggressive in a way that is objectively hurt that school.
Oh, 100% agree. But again, you see the guy at least trying to go put his name out there, trying to do stuff. It's not, it might be performative, but it's not the same as Terry Golick refusing to do anything about Zach Kloss until firing him from the stands for whatever fucking reason with 4 games left in his contract. Like, it's that, like, I would take the devil I don't know, which is, yeah, that guy might piss some people off, but at least he's trying, rather than what we have. But that's a discussion for another day, Brian. We're an hour and 10 minutes into this. We've wrapped up all of the stuff. Again, guys, right now, Idaho is an FCS program. They've been an FCS program for almost a decade. They're going to continue being an FCS program. Get on board with Coach Ford, and let's hope a more seasoned offensive coordinator is going to fix some of the problems that were around last year. A little bit of healthier luck with the quarterback and the receiving room. And again, if Bobby Hauck and the Montana Sheep falter just a little bit, maybe Bobby Kennedy slips that team into the middle half of the Big Sky, and Idaho gets to jump up into the top 3 or 4 teams, and again, get back to the playoffs like Jason Eck had them for a few years. But Brian, last things I wanted to very quickly hit. We've been keeping you guys up to date on some of the portal departures and landings. Davis Fry officially did end up at D2 Western Oregon. Will Cornelson, linebacker, did end up at Weber State. Hayden John is at UC Davis now. Nick Josephek transferred down to NAIA Eastern Oregon. Trenton Swanson, receiver, is now at Eastern Washington. So we will end up seeing him at least on the other sideline once or twice in the near future. And then Emerson Cortez Menjivar ended up going to Tennessee Tech, an air raid school that is very, very, very vocal about moving away from the air raid. So best of luck to him as a receiver moving to a school that's actively saying we got to run the ball more. It's pretty interesting. But that does leave Wiley Donnerberg, Markai McKinnon, Dylan McIntyre, Wayne Queen, Calvin Macy, and Joshua Barnes, all as Vandals that entered the portal and have not announced a new home. So hopefully those guys, come fall ball, can find, it might be dropping down to D2 or D3 or NAIA, whatever it may be. Hopefully those guys can find homes. But again, you look at the transfer portal, Brian, 17 Vandals go in, 6 did not find homes. The other 11 did, but man, that's the game you play. With that said, Brian, I think we've covered everything we possibly had. It is King Spud weekend, guys. Be there or be square. Go Vandals. As always, V's up, all the things. Man, I hope we win that trophy, Brian.
Go Vandals.